started. My name is Mark Mormons. I'm the Senior Vice President of Entrepreneurship and Venture Development at the Arizona Commerce Authority, and excited to be presenting the intro for today's bootcamp session. So first, I want to take a minute to thank our partners. We couldn't be putting on this daily bootcamp without their support, and we're lucky to have a network of statewide organization supporting us with great content, resources, and partnership. So what is it? The bootcamp has been running now since April. It's a daily content session aimed at businesses with 20 or fewer employees on how to kind of respond to and return stronger from the COVID crisis. Again, it's a statewide initiative with the support of all of those sponsors on the previous page and many more. And it's a daily session from 9 to 10 a.m. every day with new content on how to help you think through business changes, responses, and getting ready to return after this crisis. I'll post in the chat window the link to our website down there on the screen where you can register for future bootcamp sessions as well as watch past recordings for all recent webinars. Again, there's a ton of great content on there, so I encourage you to check it out and see if there's a session that's interesting to you. And I hope that you'll register for future sessions as well. We've also got a fantastic resource collective. So on this link, which I'll also post in the chat box, we've aggregated all of these great reference guides, resources, tools from our partners across the state just in one spot. So you should look through there and see if there's any resources that'll be helpful to you and your business. This week, we've got some great topics for you. Today, Wednesday, we're going to be talking about manufacturing resources. Tomorrow, we'll be back with different ways to re-energize your business model. And then on Friday, we'll be talking about how businesses can kind of plan for and navigate disruption. Quick update on the PPP process. The president on Saturday signed the extension, and so now PPP applications are open and accepted through August 8th. There's still 110 billion remaining in that pot, so if you haven't applied for PPP yet and you're thinking about it, definitely encourage you to do so before August 8th. A few other programs that you can take advantage of through the Arizona Commerce Authority outside of this bootcamp. One, we've partnered with the SBDC chapters across the state of Arizona. They're a great tool for partnership, business consulting, and mentorship for small businesses. We've also got the Arizona at Work program, which combines certification and employee training efforts with sourcing talent as well. And then lastly is the Arizona Manufacturing Extension Program, or excuse me, Partnership, or MEP, which you'll be hearing about in a lot more detail today. I'd also encourage you to visit arizonatogether.org. This is the governor's website on all things COVID. He's got resources for businesses, individuals, charities that you can support, and the latest news and information on all things COVID. Here's some examples of the types of resources on that resource collective. And so you'll see whether you're a hotelier, a restaurateur, a manufacturer, a retailer, there's all sorts of reference guides and resources on how to reopen, how to protect your employees and your customers. And so these are the types of materials that we're sourcing on that resource collective site. Encourage you to check it out. Lastly, I would encourage you to visit our COVID website, azcommerce.com/COVID-19. This is for all the latest news and updates on COVID-19 and how it's affecting the business community here in Arizona, as well as additional resources for you to help your business in this time. So today, I'm happy to introduce Jim Harrison, who's also a member of the Arizona Commerce Authority. He works in our Manufacturing Extension Partnership Program, MEP, and he'll be talking today about all things MEP and the resources for manufacturers across the state. So without further delay, I will stop sharing and hand it over to Jim, if you want to go ahead and pop your screen up.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk with you today and share with you hopefully some cost savings opportunities, some resources you may or may not have known about, and answer some questions that you may have had over the last few months with COVID. So first, I would like to introduce the Arizona Manufacturing Partnership. I'm the newest member of the team, and very proud to be working with this group and helping manufacturers. I come from, as you saw the slide previous, almost 30 years of manufacturing experience in operations in small and mid-sized companies. And every day I just absolutely enjoy coming to work and meeting new people, new companies, and seeing how I can help. Some of the other questions that have come up over the last few months is, how do we manufacture with the threat of COVID? So I want to share with you some of the best practices, ideas that we've heard from our clients and that have been put together in a publication, that you have an opportunity to get a copy of that publication as well. And then the other ongoing issue that we see is staffing. Staffing was a challenge for a lot of companies prior to COVID, and it continues to be, and I think it will be in the future as things become more competitive and you're trying to hire the best. And so we'll give you some ideas on how to do that. And we always like to bring value in everything we do. So today is no different. I want to share with you some opportunities to save costs, save money in your businesses starting today. Real cash that can be used for other things, especially in this time of need. So first, our mission is to make every Arizona manufacturer the most successful business it can be. And here's our team of senior client advisors, our leadership. And so many of you who we currently work with or have worked with in the past know one or more of these people. They're your advocates, your advisors, and available to you at any time. It's just a matter of reaching out, asking, and letting us do the work. So here's kind of how the MEP works. We are a partially federally funded program overseen by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technologies. In Arizona, the Arizona Commerce Authority actually holds our grant, so we work under the Arizona Commerce Authority. But we're also measured and overseen by NIST on an ongoing basis. We're part of a national network, so there is an MEP in all 50 states and Puerto Rico that are helping the small and mid-sized manufacturers in those particular areas, but we also work together. And one example of that is Supplier Scouting. For example, I worked with the Delaware MEP most recently. They have a client who needed somebody or needed a manufacturer to produce a product for them. We have a great candidate here in Arizona. So I made that connection for them, and hopefully that will result in new sales, new business for that client. So the way we're measured when we work with clients, when we do a project, whether it's cost savings or bringing them business or helping them to hire, we're measured through surveys. NIST puts out surveys on a quarterly basis, and they measure the impacts to our clients. In 2019, you can see the nationwide results here, 114,000+ jobs created, 15.7 billion in new and retained sales. A big one for us is cost savings, 1.5 billion in cost savings, which, it gets, as you get better, it gets harder to find those cost savings, and we can help you do that. And then 4.5 in new investments. Some of the biggest challenges that we see, and this is nationwide as well as in Arizona, we hear from our clients on a daily basis, is cost reductions. How do we find that extra little bit of cost savings in our business? You start to get tunnel vision when you're working in a business on a daily basis. Our client advisors see a lot of different companies. We see a lot of different things, and we can, kind of point companies in the right direction and then help them with specific projects to attack costs, whether it's a work cell that is just too much scrap, too much time, too much labor, and it needs to be refined. It needs another set of eyes, and we can be those eyes. And then employee recruitment, again, huge challenge. All of those of you who currently have open positions, open recs, know how difficult it can be to find the right person for your position, the right fit for your company. And then of course, growth, product development. And then one of the biggest measures we have on our surveys is the Net Promoter Score. And so that's basically saying, asking our clients how we were to work with, and would they recommend us to their colleagues within their business or to other businesses to help them. And on a national basis, it's an 85, which is pretty high for customer service. In Arizona, we're a 90 plus. So we always try to get that 9 or 10 on that survey. And we want to do everything we can to make sure that you felt that value when we've worked with you. So I want to give you some examples of how we help. First, in operational excellence, and I've put some dollar signs here because these are the areas where there is opportunity to save money in your business starting today. You may not realize it, you may not know it, but I encourage you after this meeting or when you have some time to start looking in those areas. And if you need help looking in those areas, we can help you look in those areas. But continuous improvement, lean manufacturing. Those of you who have worked with us and who work with us ongoing know we have a strong lean manufacturing program, starting with Lean 101 workshops to coming in and actually doing Kaizen events on your work processes, finding out where we can reduce scrap, reduce waste, all of those. And we've had great feedback on those workshops, and we continue to deliver those. Staffing is, again, probably our second biggest. It's right there. It kind of flows back and forth with continuous improvement and lean. Our clients come to us for help on finding people for their businesses. I mean, you can just see the ads on a daily basis of companies trying to hire, and some of those ads you've seen, companies have been trying to hire for months and months, the same positions. So we've had great success there, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the presentation on how we've helped there. Quality certifications, ISO, AS9100, we've helped clients get certified so that they can take on additional business from their customers who require those certifications. Safe quality food certification. Those of you who work in the food manufacturing industry know of that. Safety training, safety manuals. We do OSHA 10, OSHA 30. We can help with that. Solder training is a new one that we've taken on, a new partner. So we can help with solder training, supply chain and supplier development. As I mentioned earlier, we can connect potential new businesses with our clients. And in some cases, help find new customers for clients. If it kind of goes both ways. One of my colleagues and I both have a company, a client here in Arizona. One was looking for a new supplier. The other one had the capability. We connected those dots, and we have a client now. We have two clients who are extremely happy with new business and with a new supplier. MRP, ERP, development, whether you're sourcing a new MRP system or you just need help fully utilizing this. I can't tell you in my 30 years of experience how many times I've seen where there's an ERP in place, but companies and people are only scratching the surface on its capabilities and not using it to its full potential. You know, these systems are extremely expensive, and sometimes they get used for nothing more than what you could probably do in Excel. So you want to make sure you're getting the bang for your buck out of these systems that you're spending money on, and that you identify the right one for your business, and we can help with that. Inventory optimization. Again, with my experience and personally and working with the MEP going into companies, I can't tell you how many times I've seen stacks and stacks of inventory on the shelves. And some of them collecting dust. So you know that it's not really relevant. That's cash sitting on your shelves. That money, if it had not been spent on the labor and the materials to set on your shelf, would be in your bank, and you'd be able to use that for other things that are more important now. How do you turn that? How do you change away from building the wrong stuff? Or, you know, and I know it's the case with a lot of your businesses sitting out there. You have a delivery to make, but you're missing a component, but you have all this stuff on the shelf that you can't sell because it's not the right stuff at the right time. So we can help with that. Shipping services costs. A lot of small manufacturers, you pay what the market rate is for UPS, FedEx, shipping containers. We work with a consortium who takes a lot of smaller businesses, puts them together so they have the buying power to save the smaller companies money, and we can help with that. Technology planning, automation, workforce development. Again, part of the staffing is making sure you hire the right person, but then also training them to fit what they need to do so they enjoy their work. So they don't feel like they were just kind of thrown in into the heap. And you know, maybe you don't have a staffing problem if you have a well-run, good process for onboarding and making sure that people stay and reducing turnover. Again, we'll kind of touch on that a little bit later. And then again, sourcing. So on the business excellence side, we help strategically. One of a couple of ways that, again, you can start identifying the opportunity to save money today is R&D tax credits. And many of you may or may not be aware, your controllers or financial advisors may be aware of R&D tax credits. But what we found is even those who are well-versed in finance don't realize that there's more money to be had through using the R&D tax credits. And the reason for that is the laws have changed. They've become more lax over the last several years. And we're going to be having a workshop on that later this month. So if you keep an eye out for that, it'll be a webinar and you can get a little more detailed information on that. But what we found is companies who even think they are taking advantage of R&D tax credits the way they used to be, you know, patents, things that are brand new. The laws have relaxed quite a bit where things that you might not think are R&D eligible for the R&D tax credit are very much. And companies have saved tens of thousands of dollars through this. And then another one, a big one for us, and again, some of you have already realized this savings, is the utility tax exemption. Now I'll go into that a little bit more on the next slides. HR support, that's a big one for us. You know, whether it's, you know, the smaller companies don't always have, you know, the owners wear many hats. So they don't always have an HR manager and a generalist and, you know, all the specific positions that a larger company might have. So we have the ability to support or supplement what you do have in-house. And in some cases, you know, they decide that, you know, it's best to let the experts handle that. And they kind of outsource that support. Strategy development, business planning, P&L and cash flow. When was the last time you had a fresh set of eyes look at your P&L and analyze your cash flow to see if there are opportunities to save money now that just, we've been paying this all along, we just keep paying it, the bills come in, we paying it, and you don't ask yourself, why are we paying this? Why are we doing this? Are there less expensive options? Organizational excellence. We have great training programs for building leadership. You know, as you know, in smaller companies, people work there many years, they're a great operator, then they become a lead, and then all of a sudden there's an opportunity for a supervisor position, and that person becomes a lead candidate. And while they've been a great operator and a great lead, they might not necessarily have the skills to be a supervisor. So we have training that will help develop those people internally so that they don't get in over their heads and then decide, you know what, this isn't the job I used to love, so I'm moving on. Now you're trying to find an operator and a supervisor. Financial modeling, Export Tech. It's an award-winning program that we have as part of the MEP and the ACA to help companies who are ready to venture out and sell internationally. So if you're interested in that, or you think you're ready to take that next step, reach out to us. We can help you get set up in that program. Sales training. We have a great sales training partner. Absolutely fantastic. Marketing and cybersecurity. So again, let's get into saving money. I want to make sure that we at least bring some value to your time today. The utility tax exemption. So again, many of you know this already who have worked with us. Some of you may not, but Arizona manufacturing companies can be exempt from paying state tax on utilities. So whether that's electricity, APS, SRP, Tucson Electric Power, natural gas through Southwest Gas. If you do one thing today, check your utility bill. See if you're paying that state county tax. It's a little bit different on different bills. And if you're not sure if it's the right thing, you can call us and ask, and we can definitely let you know if you're paying it. But you can save hundreds to thousands of dollars per month. If you're paying that, you can stop paying that. So that money right now is just going into a black hole. And so whatever's on that line and those billing statements, that's free money that you could have if you stop paying that money. And if you've been paying it, the good news is we can actually help you get a refund for up to 48 months. So if you take that number that's on that line and multiply it by 48, you can have a pretty good idea of what that refund might look like. For some of our clients, it's been in the tens of thousands of dollars, some over $100,000. The bad news is if you've been in your facility or you've been paying this for longer than 48 months, you can only get 48 months back. So time is of the essence. You want to check that bill and you want to get that stopped and you want to apply for that refund as soon as possible. Another cost-saving opportunity that many, and even a lot of our clients don't know about this, we've tried to share as much as possible, but the Industrial Assessment Center at ASU, they're a regional center who has funding from the Department of Energy to do no-cost surveys, energy surveys, assessments with manufacturing companies. And they do work with companies in Nevada and New Mexico, but we're fortunate enough to have them right here in our backyard. And they have done some assessments with some of our clients and identified cost savings. You can see that since 2017, they've identified cost savings resulting in $2.4 million. So I encourage anyone who, again, this is free. They're available to come in and do this for you. I encourage anybody who thinks they might have an opportunity, or even if you don't, because you may not know what to look at, to contact them or us, and we can put you in contact with them. The contact information is at the bottom. To have them set up a free assessment. Again, this is funded by the Department of Energy. It's a great group there at ASU that we've worked with for some time now, and another good opportunity to save costs in your business. Now, the next thing, and this is kind of new to us at the MEP as well, obviously, with the COVID-19, we've gathered some of the best practices. Now, this comes from the National Association of Manufacturers, and we are willing to share this publication with you. It's not ours, but the things that we've seen in it, we're also hearing from our clients here in Arizona, some of the things that they're doing. So they're very consistent. These are just some practices to consider. It's a collective of what's working out there or what people are trying. But as you know, all businesses are different sizes, different setup. If you go into a machine shop, the machines are spread out. People might be working more independently, where if you have an assembly line, you're constantly passing WIP from one person to the next. So different things to consider there. These are all meant as examples, so everybody should consult with local legal counsel, you know, things, you know, regulations within your local areas. So first, site access to mitigate exposure. First thing is, you know, who do you allow into your building? And most companies are limiting or not allowing third-party visitors at all unless it's absolutely critical to the business. Again, a machine goes down and you need somebody to come in and fix it to keep operations going. Some companies are using self-certification questionnaires, and you see some of that in the medical fields as well before they let you into the offices. And some are doing temperature screening just to try to determine, make sure that somebody who may think they feel fine is coming into work, and you know they can try to catch that before you know that opportunity to spread enters the building. Now, once in the building, and doing work, how do you keep people safe? So some companies are trying to restation or rework their workstation so that people are spread out. Again, as I mentioned, in an assembly line, that's a little more difficult because you're passing the work, passing WIP, and you're relatively close to each other. So when that's not possible, they try to use plexiglass, dividers, PPE, and the CDC recommends wearing face coverings in all manufacturing facilities. Just good practice. Also, when 6 foot isn't possible, companies are trying to use higher grade PPE. You know, in some cases it might be masks, in some cases face shields, gloves, just depending on the nature. Companies are requiring more cleaning, and then, you know, so a lot of these are very obvious and intuitive, but, you know, if a workstation is going to be touched by multiple employees, does it make sense to clean more frequently in between shifts? And if multiple employees are going to be touching the tools or the work or the station, then between each employee change. And again, as I mentioned, you know, if there's shared tools, it makes sense to clean those tools and determine what's best for your business. If it's just 1 employee per tool per shift, then once per shift probably makes sense. Now then, throughout the building, as you get into the building, it's break time, it's, you know, start of shift. How are our companies handling that? So again, companies are trying to discourage any area where employees can congregate. So example, break rooms. Some companies are just closing their break rooms. Some are rearranging their break room. They might have a huge break room where they can spread people out enough and it makes sense to do so. And then installing touchless appliances, for example, sinks that have foot pedals, or paper towel holders that have a sensor so that you don't have to touch anything to get that paper towel. Also emphasizing policies on hand washing, sanitizing, making sure there's enough supplies throughout the facility to support what you're communicating. Cleaning restrooms, and in some cases, you know, blocking off certain sinks. You know, in a lot of cases, there's sinks right next to each other. You might block off every other sink just so that when there might be 2 employees in there at the same time, they're not standing right next to each other, washing their hands. And then whenever possible, leaving doors open. I know that's difficult to do on external doors, but internal doors, if you have a lot of these, it makes sense, probably makes sense to prop them open. If it, you know, in some cases there, you know, there's clean rooms and you can't do those things, but where it makes sense to prop those open, where, because you can imagine a door handle, every person in and every person out's touching that door handle. That's probably one of the most biggest opportunities to spread. So, and then external doors, if there's the ADA buttons that somebody can push with their hip, or, you know, an elbow where they don't have to touch the door handle, those are helpful as well. Hallways and walkways, again, you know, I know our group here is typically smaller manufacturers, smaller buildings, so it may not be practical to make one-way hallways or one-way walkways and things like that to reduce traffic. But if it's possible, it's definitely worth looking at. And then a lot of companies are using radios and text messages. You know, in the pre-COVID days, you know, if you sat across the room from somebody, it was always nice to go over and walk across the room and discuss an issue with somebody face to face. Now it makes more sense probably to pick up the phone, send an email, or jump on a video call if you want to have that facial interaction, as opposed to walking across the room. Again, time clocks is a big one, and those of you who have them know that employees at the beginning of a shift will stand there waiting for the clock to strike so that they can start clocking in, and then it's a rush for the time clock. So a lot of companies are changing how they're doing time clocks, whether they're adding time clocks to spread out that group, changing the technology so that they can log in through a cell phone or a band and kind of walk by, or staggering shifts so that people's start times aren't all at the same time, so you don't have that congregation. And then floor markers, which I'm sure anybody who's been to the grocery store in the last couple of months have seen markers on the floors that kind of give you an idea of where you should stand. That's probably the most practical way to do it, to keep people from just lining up at the clock. And then now shift and team design. Typically they're in the past, shifts would overlap. So there's a handoff or a pass down. Now that might not be the greatest idea, because if you get a contamination on one shift, you don't want to pass that across the other shift and take 2 shifts down. So building some time in between shifts, if it's practical for your business, might make some sense, so that the next shift arrives after the other shift has already left the area. And then handoffs. Again, I spoke to, it's not always practical, but anything from clipboards to raw materials to forms, WIP in a assembly process may pass from one staff to another. So it really should consider if there's a way to rework that process where it can be safer, add PPE in an assembly line where you might not have worn gloves before. Typically I've seen assembly lines where you wear gloves because you're protecting the product or you're protecting your hands. Well, now maybe in an assembly line, you're wearing gloves to protect yourself from passing COVID-19 to your coworker next to you, and a mask. And then at the end of your shift or on break, everybody takes off their gloves, washes their hands, and moves forward safely. So what happens if somebody is diagnosed with COVID-19? You need to consider a plan for what will you do in that case. And we're seeing it on a daily basis where our clients, we have somebody who tested positive. What do we do? And then what do we do when they're ready to come back? How do we bring them back safely? Well, the main thing is communication, communicating to your team while respecting the privacy of the individuals who have contracted COVID-19, but communicating that, it's happened. Here's what we're doing to prevent your exposure. Here's what we're doing to be safe for the company. And then how will you bring them back when they have recovered? And what does that process look like? Contact tracing. What are you going to do? How do you identify who's come in contact with that person, and how do you handle that situation? And then what will happen? You find an employee, they don't feel well, they go home. What do you do with the area where they've been working? What protocols will you follow to make sure that that's clean, make sure that whoever takes over for them is safe and feels comfortable doing the work? And then again, I can't say it enough, communication. What communication will go out to employees to make sure that, because if you don't communicate the employees well, and the person who became ill has a friend, they will tell them, and the next thing you know, you have lost complete control of the information that flows through your business. So you have to be in front of it, you have to communicate, and you can't communicate enough. And then finally, it helps to be well informed, so that if you form a partnership, form connections to the local health officials, be well read on the CDC guidelines, have all that information, because It's not a matter of if, it's really a matter of when, considering the numbers that are happening here. Again, we hear it on a daily basis from our clients who, you know, it's happened. So again, non-essential workers. So those who, in a manufacturing plant, you have to be there to do the work. We know this. We're not like financial services or insurance where they can just take their computer home and continue on the way they were. So, but there are non-essential, and when I say non-essential, they're essential to your business. Obviously, they wouldn't be there, but they're not essential to actually producing and shipping the product. Maybe accounting, finance, marketing, sales, those types. How, you know, is it possible to allow them to continue to work from offsite? Because the least amount of contact, the least amount of interaction, the better off you're going to be. And then when it's time, and I don't know when that is for your business, but when it's decided that it is safe to bring that group who has been working offsite for a period of time back into the business, make sure you're communicating of what's taking place, what the safety protocols are, and how they will be safe, and how the business will continue going forward. I know we're hearing again from our clients and from our own organizations, the date just keeps being pushed out a little bit. Wait and see, wait and see. It's better to be safe than sorry. And if you're operating fine in that nature, then it probably makes sense to do so. So again, this is a publication from the National Association for Manufacturers, and we can send you a link to that if you'd like to read the full report. Again, these were very similar to what we're hearing on a daily basis from our local clients here in Arizona. So it might be helpful to you. Finally, I wanted to go over staffing. Again, this is one of our biggest requests at the MEP. It was a challenge before COVID when unemployment was low, the market was tight, and everybody's hiring for very similar positions. And so here's some questions to consider as you're determining your staffing strategy and how you're going about things, and trying to measure how you're doing against your quotas and your metrics for hiring. You know, how many positions do you have open? How long have the positions been open? I know from my days in manufacturing and in real businesses, when positions were open for a very long time, then people start to question, well, are those positions really needed? And those are very valid, good questions. Who's doing the work? Is somebody else taking up the slack of these missing positions, these missing people? And are you wearing on them? Are they going to be the next person who leaves, and then you'll be filling their position because they're overwhelmed? Why are the open positions difficult to fill? Are there hidden costs associated with your open positions? How much are those costs? Are these open positions affecting your ability to deliver to customers? And I would imagine in a lot of cases they are. They wouldn't be open, they wouldn't be there if they weren't critical to your business. Do you have high employee turnover? If so, why? Were they mishires in the first place? Or like I said, is somebody taking up the slack of some of these open positions, and so they leave because they're overwhelmed, or they're doing a position that they weren't trained for, or they really didn't sign up for originally? And how much does a mishire cost your business? If you hire somebody and they turn out to not be a good fit, well, you've just, whatever time it took to hire that position, you're starting over. You've done the onboarding, plus the visibility inside your company of, oh, there goes another one. You've seen it, you've heard it if you've had some of these challenges. So you want to make sure that you hire correctly from the beginning. some of the ways we help, we bring together many local resources through our network. So we work with different cities, we work with the counties, we network with a lot of different companies. So we can help fill these positions just through our networking, through our knowledge and our awareness of Arizona and the companies within it. One of my colleagues, Tanya, put together a list of resources with contacts, so real names, emails, phone numbers of different programs around the state who are actively trying to place people in positions with companies. And those are universities, and a lot of you already work with universities, I know. Colleges, nonprofit organizations, veterans programs, and apprenticeships. So all of these programs and things and entities are trying to place their people with companies, and a lot of times we find that these dots just aren't getting connected. The companies looking to hire are unaware of these programs and these opportunities. So again, we have a sheet. It's a 2-pager with contact information that might be helpful to you and kind of a little bit outside the box, and something that a lot of companies aren't looking at as a potential pipeline for your hiring needs. And then we've worked, this is one that I'm really proud of. We've worked with Arizona at Work over the last year or so, and probably longer. I've been with the MEP for a year, and I know I have. So occasionally companies decide in Arizona that, you know, they're gonna downsize or they're gonna move. You know, companies are acquired. It happened to me several times in my career where, you know, the company at a higher level just decides they're not going to run that particular plan anymore. So that company, in a lot of cases, will go to Arizona at Work and say, hey, we need your help. We're going to have all these employees that are going to be displaced. Can you help us? Well, we connect with Arizona at Work because we know our clients who are hiring and what positions they hire. Machinists are a big one, and they've been a big one. So when you have a company that's been in place for years and the people are going to be leaving those positions through no fault of their own, they've been long-term good employees, that's a gold mine for a company who's potentially looking to hire similar positions. So we try to connect those dots, and we've been successful with that. A lot of it depends on how early a company who might be downsizing reports, and if we have the opportunity to make those connections. But great opportunity, and it's worked quite well where companies have gone into the plant that will be closing, interviewed employees within those plants, offered positions, and then when their position finally did end, it may be a few months, it may be a couple of weeks, they just drive to a new location on the following Monday, and they have a new job and a new home. And everybody's eternally grateful for that. The company hiring that they were able to find such a gem. Arizona at Work's completing their mission. We're helping to connect the dots. And of course, probably most importantly is the employee who just had their world rocked and then now has a new place to land. And then when all of those things, you know, sometimes that works and sometimes the timing's just not right. Sometimes you just need to fill a position. So in those particular cases, we have some recruiting partners that we've worked with for a long time. They're capable of doing temp to perm or direct hire positions. Their capabilities include everything from entry level to C-suite level. We can use an international search if necessary. Some companies prefer to stay local. Some have found that the right clients aren't local. So our recruiters will reach out to their nationwide network and find suitable candidates. And we've had clients tell us that after several poor experiences of trying to find qualified candidates from other recruiters, that ours have sent them the best. And that kind of goes with You know, the partners that we work with are vetted. We've worked with them, we've tried them. If they don't work for us, we don't use them. So you have the peace of mind of knowing that we've already done the work up front to decide who might be good for you, who can help you, and who would bring you the most value. So again, most of our partners have worked with the MEP for years. So just some examples of some of the direct hire positions in the last several months that our team has placed for our clients right here in Arizona: assistant buyer, controller, general manager, and VP of operations, global vice president of operations. And I don't mean to be just reading slides that you can already see, but I know some of our participants are just on the phone, so I just want to make sure that they hear some of these. Procurement manager, production supervisor, product design engineer, quality manager, machinists, whether it's lathes, mills, they're in extremely high demand. They're extremely hard to find. We've been able to find them and place them. Senior cost account and VP of sales. Well, those are just some of the examples. If you've got positions like those, similar to those, up to those, I'm pretty confident that we can help you. So the companies that have a nice refined process for recruiting and bringing in basically a pipeline, we can also help with the onboarding and the screening to make sure that it is a good hire. So for companies who've found their own pool of potential candidates and they're going through the interview process, we can bring in some processes that will help you vet them better up front, including DISC profiles. The DISC measures tendencies and preferences of candidates from dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientious, just to kind of measure and gauge how good of a fit they might be for your company, for the position, for the culture. Doing the work up front to make sure that when you do, you spent this much time trying to find the candidate, you're going to pay them a lot of money. You're going to pay to the process, the cost of the process just to find them, to bring them on board. You want to make sure once you extend that offer that they're going to stay, that they're going to be a good fit, they're going to add value. You're not just processing resumes and filling quotas and in a continual loop. So again, that reduces the chances of mishire and reduces your turnover and improves the overall effectiveness of the organization. So with that, I hope that I've given you at least a few nuggets to contemplate. I welcome any questions you might have. If you prefer to ask questions outside of the meeting, feel free to reach out to us. You can find us at azmep.org. Those of you who know who your client advisor is, you can reach out directly to your client advisor. If you don't know, or you're new, or just becoming aware of the Arizona MEP, you can call 602-845-1256, and we can make sure a client advisor is assigned to you, and they can help you from there. So with that, are there any questions?
We've got one that just popped in. Jim, are there any loss mitigation services that you know of that are offered in the state or local level?
Not that I know of off the top of my head. That's something that I can take the question and check with my team and see if there's anything. We've gotten a lot of questions, requests for, assistance, things like that, but there's nothing that I know of off the top of my head, but I can definitely check and circle back.
Thanks. Any other questions? People can feel free to throw them in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. You can also use the chat window. We've got about 10 minutes for questions if people have them. And if people are, oh, one just came in. Would you assist a home-based business in the manufacturing industry? And would the utilities of a home-based business also be a tax exempt?
I believe they would. It would. I mean, it depends on how you're registered, but if it's manufacturing and you're you're registered as a true business, it might be possible. The problem there starts to become how much of the utilities is for the home and how much is for the business. So that could be, that might become an issue. But if you want to reach out independently, we can investigate it for you. We haven't had that request before.
Thanks. And 2 more questions. So will a copy of the presentation be sent to participants, and will the link to this recording be available? The answer to both of those questions is yes on our website. I just reposted in the chat box. It's our AZ Small Business Bootcamp website, where the recording will be posted later today with the slides from today's presentation. So you can go and check those out. We usually have those posted about 2 hours after the session concludes. Well, in case any other questions come in, that's fine. But Jim, I wanted to take this chance to say thank you for a really fantastic session, very informational. Really appreciate you taking the time. We'll close out with a few more questions. I just saw another one come in, but wanted to give gratitude and really proud and excited to see all the great work that Arizona's MEP program is doing.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to attend. Again, I hope we brought you some value today, and I know that we can bring you value going forward. When you're ready, just reach out. I see a couple more questions. Does the MEP have any partnerships with COVID testing sites that employees could access if they are exposed? We don't. We basically hear of the same testing sites that you probably hear about on the news. So yeah, no partnerships. We don't. Do you offer training on how to become ISO and AS certified? And yes, absolutely. That is one of our biggest offerings. We've helped many companies become certified. We help with the audits. We can help with all of that. So if you want to reach out, if you already know who your advisor is, reach out to them. If not, reach out to our number or website on the listed below, and we can put you in contact with an advisor who can get you started on that immediately. What about accounting and financial planning for businesses? Can AZ MEP help with getting our financials in order and overcoming the impacts of COVID? Yes, and I thought I touched on this a little bit earlier, but maybe I skimmed past it because our services are very broad. So anything a business can need or does need, manufacturing business, we can help with. Financial planning is again a big request for us. That extra set of eyes to go over. A lot of times the same people have been in the business doing the same thing, and it becomes just just a standard process, and you got to take a step back. Sometimes it doesn't hurt to have an extra set of eyes looking at something. And then, the impacts of COVID, those are all new costs that are associated with companies' P&Ls that probably haven't been there before. So how do you overcome that? How do you pay for it? Again, some of the cost savings ideas might help offset some of those costs. Do we think that the office retrofits will be cost prohibitive, and will leaseholders be flexible? I think it really depends on the business. And when you say office, I'm thinking manufacturing floor, but also, there is office staff, whether you're spreading people out and you're taking up a lot more space than you would have normally. The leaseholders, I can't answer for the leaseholders. I think as the lessees, the companies who are leasing the property as the customers, if the leaseholders want to make their customers happy, want to work with them, it's got to be a communication. It's got to be a give and take process, because the leaseholders have to know that if the company's not profitable, they'll cease to exist, and they will no longer have a customer there. So it's everybody working together to solve these issues, and it's an ever-changing environment. So it's all about communication and doing what's best for the business. Are there costs associated with your services that you offer? So it really depends. As an advisor, we're an advocate or a project manager. Some of the things that we do, some of the things that I mentioned, the connecting of dots, the introductions, we do all that. And there's no charges for many of the things that we do. But in a lot of cases, we bring in third parties, experts, whether it be in the staffing or the ISO, financial services. And so what we do is we create a contract between our client, and then we hire the vetted third parties to come in and provide the services. And then you, as the client, would pay us. Can we engage AZ MEP to work with our suppliers to help them improve quality, cost, and delivery times? Absolutely. And if your suppliers are here in Arizona, it's much easier. And in some cases, they might already be clients. So it's just about a conversation. And if you want to, work with your suppliers and you want us to go in there and help identify opportunities or identify ways to improve their quality or costs, we can definitely do that. If your suppliers are out of state, we have the ability to reach out to our nationwide network again and work with MEPs in other states to help facilitate that. How can I find out the best areas that you can help with? Sometimes it's just about a conversation. You may not know you need our help. You may not think you need our help. And a lot of times we find that until we sit down, we have a conversation, we start to understand your businesses, and then some thought-provoking conversation happens. And then all of a sudden we're helping in multiple areas, whether it's finance, it's supply chain, where next thing you know, we feel like we're in there helping you run the business. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that you're successful. That is our mission, is to make sure that you're as successful as you can be. Good questions. Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. Thank you again, Jim. And I think one big takeaway is if you are in this space in Arizona, it's worth a conversation because like Jim said, there's a really broad range of resources available, and talking to Jim and people from the MEP team, they can connect you to the right people at the right time. Well, that's it for today. Jim, I'll just point you, there was something for us in the chat box if you wanted to just find that resource as well. To our participants, I encourage you to go to our website and register for future sessions. We've got great content coming up, and we'll be continuing to bring new sessions every day through the rest of July. Thank you everyone for your participation, and excited to see you in future sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.